I never want to be too full of myself, too big headed to realize that I can be wrong too, and that an apology may be necessary. So
Ça tue, ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey.
Welcome back to the BME podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. For those that's listening, I have a special guest on with me. And for those that's watching, y'all know this face. He's been on the pod before. If you on Threads, you know the man, you know the myth, the legend, the mayor, aka Rush. But on this episode, of course, we're going to talk basketball, but we're going to find out about David, the individual, the person, because he's bigger than just Threads and being the mayor of NBA Threads. Rush, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's cold. Kids have been out of school for like 3 days straight now, but all things considered, I'm just excited to be back on the pod after it's been like 2 years now, I think.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, man. It's been a minute, but glad to have you back on. As you just mentioned, the kids are out. So some people, if they pay attention, they know that you have children, that you're married. Everybody knows Jess. As a father and a husband, how does that shape who you are online versus off screen?
I mean, I think it shapes because I realize everything I say or everything that I do or how I show up and how people perceive me. It's a reflection on like my people, my parents who raised me, my wife, my kids, and you never want to. I guess you never want to show up in a way that in 5 or 7 years, one of your kids gets online and they're like, "Dad, did you really say this?" Or "Dad, did you really beef with that random stranger online? Were you really out here wilding out on these internet streets?" So I think I just have a responsibility to myself, number one, but the people who are sort of in my life around me know me. And, when you talk about my kids who are coming up behind me, just to sort of be a certain way. And that's online, that's in real life. I just try to behave in a manner that my parents will be proud of, and when my children are adults, that they'll be proud of.
I think that's a great mentality to have because we've seen it one too many times where people pull up old tweets and in this situation, old threads. Hey, as big as you are too, people pull up threads about you talking about tacos. Like, so thankfully, the worst they got to pull up is that you don't like tacos. That's the worst that they got to pull up. Versus, we've seen some threaders. I think in 5 years they're going to regret some of the stuff that they put out on threads already. So I think that's huge and a great mentality to have.
Yeah.
I want to speak to this real quick though. Like, you've been married, right? How long have you and Jess been married?
It'll be 12 years this October. So 11 years and change.
So 11 years and change. I saw Jess post the other day. Y'all met in Best Buy and she went to a different job and then y'all still kicked in and ended up being together.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, and I know we've had discussions about this and you don't view yourself as an expert, but being that you have this amount of time in, from your experience, what could you say have been like parts of the keys for the marriage lasting? Because we see it all the time. People get divorced. You start off good. The honeymoon phase is great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I ignore that you're bad breath when you wake up and you put your underwear on the floor and then life happens, kids. How have you been able to keep it going? And in the aspect of having kids, because once kids come into the picture, it changes how you guys have to operate as a couple.
For sure.
And with being parents.
Yeah, I think the one thing I've learned about marriage is that every day is a new day, right? There are still things that I'm learning about my wife, and to me, it's fascinating, right? Like, she's the most interesting person in the world to me. She's somebody who I will forever want to sort of investigate and peel layers back because, I mean, she's just so dynamic and there are so many layers to her, but I never want to. I never want to know everything there is to know about her. Right. Like I still want to keep that mystique that's sort of there when you first meet someone and you first start dating. And every day is new, but you also need to give a lot of grace because even as adults, I mean, we're still developing, we're still evolving, we're still becoming who we're going to be. And when you're experiencing that growth alongside someone else who's a partner, who's a spouse, and then you factor kids into it, is there's a lot happening there. So you're not going to be the same person you were yesterday or 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So you have to be able to sort of meet your partner where they are, understand that they're still growing, their interests are going to change, their preferences are going to change. And you kind of just have to grow and work in tandem. Jessica and I have been pretty fortunate in that we dated for about 3-4 years before we got married. So we had the whole friendship stage, we had the dating stage, we had the breaking up stage, we had the getting back together stage, and now we're married with three beautiful girls. So it's a journey. Uh, you should never want to arrive. You should never want to get to your destination. Your whatever your destination is, it should be something that you're constantly, working toward. Like you're moving toward. You always want to find ways to not reinvent yourself, but keep your marriage fresh, keep it new, keep it young. So, yeah, that's just one thing I've learned would just be grace. Just extend it to yourself, to your partner, and if you guys are in a good place, your partner should extend that same grace, back to you. And kids are funny because they sort of teach you all of they sort of reveal all of your bad habits. I feel like that you kind of feel like you can get away with or that you don't have to address. Um, like my kids, they're great in public. Like they are the prototypical kids you want to have like in public, like when we were coming up. The last thing your mom said to you before you left the house, like, look, don't embarrass me in public. All right. Like, you know how to act, so make sure you're acting right. And our kids are great. We don't ever have to have that talk with them. They, you know, they know what to do when they leave the house. But here they're just messy. Like they just are. And our oldest she's creative. She's always doing science projects. She's always crafting. Um, but with that comes a lot of mess and not putting things back once you're done using them. It's probably one of my biggest flaws. My wife has gotten on me about it since we've been together. So I find myself getting frustrated with the kids. It's like, why don't you just put it back? You're done with it, put it back. But then I have to stop myself because I'm like, well, I don't necessarily do this great either. So I got to give the kids grace and I need to instruct them in a constructive manner so that when they get to my age or when they get into their teens or their 20s, we've sort of kicked this bad habit. So yeah, we try to be parents where we don't really rule with iron fists. We try to give our kids a lot of grace too, because they're just as much as we're developing, they're doing so on a greater scale. And our job isn't to rule over them. Our job is to protect them, to educate them, keep them healthy, keep them safe, but also prepare them to go out into the world when they're adults and to be functioning, contributing, caring contributors to society. So that's just kind of how we try to move as a couple. It's how I try to move as a father. And it's like an investment. You don't really know how it's going to pan out until years later. But I pray and hope that when they get to my age, they'll be able to tell Jessica and I that we did a good job. So that's kind of that's what the goal is, at least.
I think I don't have to go further throughout the episode. I think the title right there is gonna have to be "Extend Grace." I think that's just
Yeah,
something across the board. Anybody that's in your circle, and sometimes you have to be able to maneuver and understand and discern when even people that's not family friends, when to extend grace to even strangers. So I
yeah,
think I think that's a lesson across the board for life, and I agree. Like forever learn your partner, forever date them, and then also, yes, your kids are they're reflections of you. So I've been there. Why? Ah, dang. Okay, I hear you, Lord. That's me too. I do
Yeah,
that. So, all
yeah,
right, let me extend grace. Let me chill out. I got to do better first because you saw that somewhere.
exactly.
You saw that somewhere. So
Yeah,
you mentioned the friendship stage, right? Obviously, y'all are good friends still, which is,
mhm,
I think, one of the major keys, even to the point that you guys, quote unquote, work together and have a podcast, which a lot of couples can do the working together, creating together, and
yeah.
rushed vibes. Has over 100 episodes. I don't know when the most recent episode is dropping, but I saw y'all did a little photo teasing us that something was dropping. I don't know when it's dropping. If you want to, give an exclusive and tell us when and what the episode is about, feel free. But what's one conversation that surprised you and how it resonated with people a part of what y'all have done so far?
Yeah, I don't know that I have one specific conversation that we've had. I mean, we've had a bunch, and a lot of the conversations we have on camera are really extensions of conversations we've had in private, and we'll sort of stop midway and be like, this would probably be good for the pod. So let's just stop, and then we'll pick it up when we record. We haven't recorded actually in over a year at this point. I think we got to episode 101, and then life just kind of went crazy. But I think the conversations throughout the course of the podcast that we've gotten the most feedback on is usually whenever we talk about like our marriage stuff. We've had episodes where either I said something to her in the previous podcast, or it was something I said, off camera, and I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that. So I've started like 2 or 3 podcasts I can remember off the top of my head just apologizing to her for either what I said, how I said it, or my position on a certain topic. One thing I try to do is be very reflective. So if I have a conversation with someone and it may not go the best way, a lot of times 5-10 minutes later, I'm already replaying it in my mind, like revisiting the conversations, checking the temperature on was I in a good state of mind? Were my emotions too heavy to really have that conversation? And I'll really go back and apologize to people if I feel it's necessary. I think you and I have even had a couple of interactions where I had to be like, hey, I don't know if you took it this way. I didn't mean it that way, but if you took it this way, I apologize, my bad. So I never want to be too full of myself, too big headed to realize that I can be wrong too. And that an apology may be necessary. So I mean that's just an example. But I mean, whenever we just sort of talk about our relationship, how we met, how we came to be a couple, how we came to get married, and just the different challenges of being married, those episodes or those segments of episodes tend to do really well just because we don't have a problem being real and being honest. I think couples who are online together or have projects online together that's sort of based in the content creation world, they tend to put up this sort of facade that they're perfect and everything is all bubbly, and those moments happen, of course. Like the majority of our relationship is good times, but we also have times where there's conflict, there's contention, there's strife. And I think the beauty of marriage is being able to have those moments and then have a journey through getting to the other side of it, finding an understanding, finding a resolution to whatever the issue is. So a lot of times we'll talk about problems that we've had or an argument we had, and talk about why each of us felt the way we did, and then talk about how we sort of came to an understanding. We don't always agree at the end of the day because we're two different people, but we at least are able to get to a point where we respect each other's emotions and feelings and their point of view. So a lot of the marriage stuff that we discuss tends to hit really well with people who listen or watch the pod.
I think that's very vital and important. And I can see why people relate to that because we often see the couples that do content, like you said, in the content creation space. Everything is great. I'm happy. I'm never sad. The sex is
True.
perfect every single time. Oh my goodness, the kids are perfect. They haven't interrupted anything in our lives. We go
Yeah.
on dates still every Friday. What arguments? Us never. I think that's vital and important, and also the aspect of having the humility and the ability to self-reflect, like, hey, I don't think I said nothing wrong, but if I did, if you perceived it wrong, let me just get ahead of that and apologize. Especially when you talking about your wife. That's
Yeah.
bestie right there. That's somebody that you plan to be with for the rest of your life, even after the kids are gone. So I think that's very vital and important and a great mindset to have. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and for those that has paid attention at all and know of who you are on the internet, as
Mm.
the mayor, with all of the growth and opportunities that have been afforded to you from the hard work that you put in through NBA threads, rush vibes, how have you been able to stay grounded with all that is
Mm.
going on?
Well, I have some help. my my wife does a very good job of keeping me level-headed and grounded. But I think it's been relatively easy because being the mayor of NBA Threads or going to events, being invited by Meta or partnering with the NBA, it's stuff that it's not something that I set out to do when I jumped on Threads. It's not something that I ever thought would happen. As a kid, I would see All Star Weekend, NBA All Star Weekend, and be, oh man, I wonder what it would be like to be there. Or I see, and I've seen influencers in the past or creators in the past get invited to events and thought that it was cool. But when I transferred Yo Rush from Instagram over to Threads back in July of 2023, it's not something that I was like, yeah, I want to jump in and I want to be like a dominant voice in the community. I want to get invited to meta events. That's not what I tried to do. I just wanted to talk hoop. So, as things started happening, um, it was more surreal to me and like shocking than anything. But I knew that that was sort of extra, right? That's like there's like a cherry on top. What was the meat and potatoes of everything, or the main course, if you will, the main dessert, if you will, was just having a growing basketball community that I was an active participant in. Getting to do cool things like help organize a pizza party for the NBA Threads community the first season. That was cool because there was excitement on the timeline. You know what I'm saying? Like people got free pizza. that some of it showed up on time, some of it didn't. But I think throughout the course of the game, everyone's pizza arrived at some point, whether it was at the beginning of the evening or toward the end. So yes, seeing the community grow like that, and seeing other people get sort of recognized and establish their own platforms. That's been the cool thing, is to just be a part of it. Um, the being given a nickname or a title of mayor. I mean, it's an honor. It's a blessing, I think. But I think it's also a product of me just staying true to who I am, someone who's more times than not looking out for the best interests of others before myself. So that's why when I do get a lot of attention, sometimes I'll shy away from it because I don't ever want it to be just rush, 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 rush. I want it to be NBA Threads, NBA Threads, NBA Threads. And I myself and a lot of others can benefit from being highlighted from time to time, but just keeping the main thing, which is the community, because I could get all these accolades, I could get to go places, but if the community's boring or it's just me and a couple other people, just talking on there with no like interaction, no engagement, no feel of a vibrant community, it's not really worth it to me. So yeah, just remembering who I am, sticking to my principles, and realizing that it's never all about one person. I think has made it relatively easy to stay grounded.
I think that's why you have been elected the mayor, and even though there's been campaigns to unelect you, you still end up in the mayoral office
Yeah.
because of that mindset of you trying to think about the community, which kind of fits the name. Even though obviously you're not in government, but the title in
Yeah. Thank God.
itself, the title itself, mayor, should be somebody that is governing and looking out for the entire community that they are the mayor of. So I think that
Mm.
solidifies and exemplifies what you're doing for the NBA Threads community. Obviously, you ain't got to worry about no laws and making sure potholes is fixed and all that type of stuff and school budgets. But
Yeah.
the little community we have, and I say little only because in the grand scheme of things, NBA Threads is not the biggest thing in the world and the most important thing in the world.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I'll be honest. I'd be lying if I didn't say there are times where I I'd be like damn, like I'm up there with Rachel Nichols. You know what I'm saying? And I'm up here shaking hands with Adam Mosseri at Instagram parties during All-Star weekend, and think highly of myself. But it's a tricky balance between being proud of like opportunities that you're given as a result of your hard work, we'll call it, and not getting full of yourself, and then just making like it would have been like really easy for me to go from somebody who's it's all about community, but then when I start getting access to certain things, it's all about Rush, right? I think there are creators out there who I don't know. I don't want those shade, and this isn't. I'm not talking about any one person, but I think it's really easy to sort of show up online under the guise of being community oriented, when it's really just sort of like, hey, look at me and the cool things that I get to do. And it's a struggle for me a lot of times. How much do I promote the things that are happening to me? Because I don't ever want to make it seem like that's all I care about. And there's so many great people, so many talented people in the community, like you yourself, Jared. Obviously we've got the corner three, but there's so many other people out there. I'll stop with you and Jared, because once I get into naming names, I'm gonna forget people, and then it's gonna be like, oh man, he's playing favorites, he's mentioning these people. So I figure I'm safe with you and Jared because we got our thing. But yeah, there's just so many talented people who contribute in their own way that's just as valuable as anybody else. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to do my NBA Threads interview series, or highlight series that I call it, because we've all lived through the whole list gate, and we know how it can be when certain people get highlighted and elevated and other people don't. So I figured, well, hey, I got a little bit of a platform, so why not highlight other people who have been just as instrumental to this place growing and being what it is. So yeah, it's a tricky balance that hopefully I get right more than I don't. But any opportunity that I get, I'm gonna tell people NBA Threads is a cool, vibrant place. You should always check it out. I'm gonna highlight people, show other people love, just as much as I get shown love, because it's really been a collective community effort to get the community where it is, and I always want to keep that at the forefront of the things that I do.
All great stuff right there, man. You mentioned, being honest and sharing your honest perspective on some of those things, and I can only imagine, on some degree, I get it too, as the aspect of you trying to balance where you don't want it to be that's the only thing that you're talking about and that you're portraying, but also appreciating and being proud that you get these opportunities. Because
Yeah,
when we look at BME, for example, Greg and Miles don't get to come to some of these events.
right.
Thinking about that big picture, obviously this is on a smaller scale. I'm not the mayor, but definitely get what you're saying. And corner three, shout out to corner three. And I was about to, just help you out and mention some names, but then literally I drew a blank after like four, and I was like, let me not mention.
Lists are tough. Lists are dangerous, man. Lists are always dangerous.
There's too many great contributors in the community for me to even try to do that. Occasionally I'll throw it out there on Threads for when new people join on, like, hey, these are some of the people that you should follow, which has gotten me in trouble.
And then you still get people in your DMs like, oh man, maybe one day I'll be able to get mentioned by BME.
Yeah. And I don't know why you want to get mentioned by BME. I don't feel I'm the biggest voice in there anyway. I purposely put these are some of the names you should follow, but that still triggers people in a way.
I mean, I feel like of the NBA threads like community, not anybody who's operating in the professional sphere who dabbles in NBA threads, but I feel like of the sort of grassroots creators who started with the platform, I feel like you have the biggest sports podcast. So, and big, and by biggest, I mean, like when you talk about YouTube, the numbers that you do on YouTube, the amount of episodes that you've put up, some of the names you've been able to land for, not names, some of the people you've been able to secure to come on. I feel like BME is probably the biggest, the you could pound for pound the biggest pod of the grassroots NBA threads creators. So don't sell yourself short. You got people in the DMs trying to go around other people to get on the trying to get on the podcast, man. So
Yeah, that's always
don't sell yourself short.
that's always interesting. I take it as a flattering and a compliment when people try to force their way onto the BME or corner three. It's flattering. You wanna be on that bad that you're every 2 weeks. Hey, y'all got a spot? Hey, I seen y'all haven't had a guest on.
Yeah,
It's I take it as a compliment, but at the same time, pump the brakes.
breaks.
Hey, be honest, man. We talking about honesty, right? What's harder to manage, the NBA discourse and NBA threads, or for those that don't know, you have chickens managing and taking care of your chickens to make sure they're happy and healthy. Because there has been situations where you came back from a trip and one wasn't happy and healthy. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and I've also so what you're implying or referencing is I actually lost one of my chickens. I went on a trip. I had three. My neighbor gave me three last spring, and all throughout the spring, that summer they were fine. And I went on a trip in October for a week. Came back literally the day I came back. One of them was attacked by a hawk and was went to glory as old folks say. And a couple weeks ago, I was again, or last week actually, I was coming home. I had to go to a funeral in Maryland and was traveling home. And my wife called me and said that a hawk attacked another one. So I've got one chicken left. But for the sake of the question, when I had all three, I don't really feel like I have to manage much NBA threads discourse. I feel like early on I was embroiled in a lot of just nonsense. My wife set me up by telling people I didn't like tacos, and that was the thing. We had Pedialyte Gate. I had the whole agenda thing. Apparently, I had an agenda against the Cleveland fans of the Cavaliers. Which I'll say, one good thing about NBA threads being bigger and more people being, just sort of using the app now is that those moments are very few and far between because the community isn't as intimate, which is nice because I got tired of people trying to flame me for my dietary choices. But I would say probably managing chickens because it's not something that I ever thought that I would. I never thought that I'd be somebody to have chickens, but they're relatively low maintenance. But making sure that the coop is clean and they poop a lot. They poop a lot. Like chickens just and they're just so cavalier. Like they'll poop anywhere. So you got to be careful when you're walking out amongst the chickens. So I had to get some boots early on. But just keeping the coop maintained and clean and making sure that they have fresh water and fresh food, and then you have to worry about the elements and nature, as as I've told you about, a hawk taking out two of them. So that's been tough, but it's a learning experience, and I'll get some more and try to do some preventative measures with the coop and making sure that it's a little tougher for predators to get to them. But the chickens are actually really cool. It's aside from the tragedy, it's been a very educating experience, but they're also pretty cool animals, and like just watching them run is actually just hilarious. I don't know if anyone's ever just watched the chicken run for like no reason. Like when I'm watching them from the window, they'll just be pecking around and they'll just sprint across the yard. They're very entertaining animals, but yeah, it's been a little somber here lately. But hopefully, I can get some more, so my lone chicken isn't alone for too much longer.
I did not know that a second chicken went on to
Yeah,
glory. That's tough. I knew about the one, but I didn't know about the second one. So, and I know how you explained when we was in New York that chickens are actually like they enjoy the camaraderie. They enjoy being around other chickens. So for
yeah,
that one chicken to be dolo now,
yeah. And it's like we've had the worst weather of the year, and she's been up there in the coop by herself. So I try to go out and check on her a couple of times a day, just so she's not totally alone. But they also have memories, like pretty pretty strong memories. So when the first chicken was killed, the other two, they didn't come out of the coop for like 2 weeks, and when they finally did, they would stay like near the coop so that should something pop off, they could just run and hide. So now this chicken has lived through uh two of their homies, two of their flock being taken down. So I don't know when she's gonna feel comfortable to come out, but that's another reason why I'm looking to get a couple more, two or three more, just so that they can sort of they can sort of help her, feel safe again.
most definitely that's tough times, man. Just anybody going through two deaths of your closest people, and the fact that
Well,
chickens actually have a good memory. So she's aware of what happened. This is not like
she remembers too.
goldfish. Goldfish don't remember 5 seconds ago. This is not Finding Nemo and Dory. Shorty, Shorty remembers both of them is they gone, they unalived.
It's very tragic. So I'm trying to keep this one alive for as long as I can, because my record, my starting record with chickens is looking a little shaky. I've lost two in 1 year, so I need to be better. Clearly,
Against the some would say the propaganda that is put out from Jess and from BMO that you are a Celtics fan. Those that really are aware know that you are a Lakers fan. So
right?
outside of being a Lakers fan, because I think you do a good job of talking about all teams and all players because you have the league pass. You are a fan of basketball in general, and especially being a Lakers fan on the East Coast. There's about 27 games that come on before the Lakers even come on. So you have time to check out
Right.
other players, other teams. Who have been some of your favorite so far this season, your favorite players and teams to watch on League Pass, not Lakers?
Yeah, the Jazz have been one of my favorite league pass teams. Not because they're good or anything, but they are young and exciting, and you can sort of see the potential with sort of that young group that they have, and then obviously some of the individual players they have. But chief among them is Keontae George. I think he's made a significant leap this year. Things were, watching him last year. I know myself, and I know like just a lot of people sort of in the NBA media orbit, had some concerns about could he be, a lead guard. I know there were games where he was coming off the bench last year. So I think this year he's established himself as a core component of whatever their rebuilding plans are. And he's had some really big games. He had a really good one. I think it was last week. So he's been exciting to watch. The Rockets, I've enjoyed watching. Kevin Durant has just been the ultimate like plug and play superstar. You can put him in any system, and he's just going to do what you need him to do. He's 37, so it's unfortunate that they have to lean on him as much as they do, as Ime said the other day. But just watching him just go out there and compete with such efficiency at 37 years old, and obviously everybody gets a little bit slower as they get older. They're not as quick, when you get into your mid 30s and your upper 30s. But across the board, there's not a whole lot of drop off in Kevin Durant's game. So I think that's to be commended, and I've just always enjoyed watching him and play basketball. He's just elite when you talk about the ability just to score. and score with efficiency. He's just been amazing. Um, and I've actually really enjoyed, and this isn't on some Homer stuff, but I've really enjoyed Austin Reeves' development this year before he got hurt. I mean, he was averaging like 26 a game and had some really big moments early on in the season while LeBron was out and while Luka, was missing a game or two here and there. But when you talk about the points, the rebounds, the assists, true shooting, like everything, he's just continued to get better from. And this is a guy who's undrafted, you know what I'm saying, and bet on himself, wanted to be in LA, and now he's somebody who's really valued by, well, at least the bus ownership. I know Jeannie really values him. I don't know what Mark's opinion is, one way or the other, but I think he's grown to be a true Lakers fan, like fan favorite. And if he's not a Laker next year, I think a lot of fans would be devastated, depending on who we get back, of course. But still, a lot of people love Austin Reeves, and I've just enjoyed watching his development.
I think that would be a perfect transition to ask, as a Lakers fan, what do you think will be the future of the Lakers with new ownership coming in? And for those that pay attention to baseball, this man has been spending big bank over there with the Dodgers. That the Dodgers owner is also going to be taking over for the Lakers.
Yeah.
What do you think the future of the Lakers organization will be with new ownership and Mark Walter, when it's pretty much for a majority of it has been owned by the Buss family?
Yeah, well, I think just the main thing is just deeper pockets. You look at most sports owners, sports franchise owners, or NBA owners. It's the NBA team is just one of however many that they have of businesses they own that they have in their sort of collection or portfolio. Where the Lakers have pretty much just been a family run team. Like their income comes from the Lakers and pretty much the Lakers only. We're now, whereas in the past, Lakers they weren't able to sort of spend with some of the other teams in terms of like their front office staff or their scouting departments or their medical teams. Now you've got pockets, right? So you can institute different technology. You can go out and you can get the best of the best because you can actually go out and you have the bank account to sort of invest in those departments. So a lot of the unsung teams, departments, whatever you want to call them, that sort of go into making a team that can compete year in and year out, not necessarily just one or two runs and then it's rebuild. Teams that stay consistently good. A lot of those teams have strong scouting departments, have strong medical teams, have some of the biggest, best minds in their front office. And Lakers haven't always been able to afford those, and I think that they'll be able to now. You're going to have to get around the salary cap restraints of the CBA, and the second apron has sort of level the playing field because so many people want to stay away from it and don't want to be in it for more than like maybe a year or two at most. So there won't necessarily be any advantages in that regard, but I think they'll be able to shore up and really strengthen a lot of the departments around just the player talent and coaching staff.
I'm excited to see what he does. Like you said, on the other aspects of what actually helps a franchise do well,
Right.
outside of the players. And I'm also very intrigued and interested to see if he'll be willing to pay that luxury tax. I got it. Let's try to build a winner. And I'll be okay with being in the second apron. So I'm very intrigued to see what he does with that because, like you mentioned, the Steve Ballmers of the world, Mark Walters ain't, his pockets, they not thin. They
Right.
pretty deep. So
Yeah.
he might be comfortable saying, hey, for a year or two to try to go get a championship, let's go be in that second apron. I'll pay the tax. I'm gonna make it back from. He has, like, again, this is the good part when you talk about him coming in. He has multiple things a part of his portfolio. So maybe something else in his portfolio will pay for the luxury tax. I don't know this man's pockets, but I'm very intrigued to see what happens going forward with the Lakers. Looking ahead past the All-Star break, what are some of the more interesting storylines that you'll be looking forward to? Because once that All-Star break is done, that's where you see we've seen a lot of good basketball. That's where you see teams are getting ready. Now we're talking about seeding. We're talking about trying to get into the play-in or get into the playoffs. We see a lot of good basketball. We see some changes made. Trade
Yeah.
deadline is done. What are you looking forward to most from storylines for post All-Star break?
Well, I do. Well, leading up to, I am interested in what happens at the trade deadline, specifically my Lakers, but also just the league. I know a lot of people are saying it's going to be a quiet trade deadline, but I am curious to see if Giannis gets moved. I think I saw a report maybe yesterday that said the Bucks are starting to come to terms that they may need to move on from Giannis, and of course, so much is being said, whether from Giannis's camp, whether from the Bucks camp, unnamed sources about that whole situation where you kind of don't really know what to believe. I think the reason why we haven't had a whole lot of trade activity right now is because a lot of people are waiting to see what happens with Giannis. Is it going to be a trade deadline thing or is it going to be a summer thing? And if he is moved, I think we'll see a lot of, and then that'll be like a first domino to fall, and we may see some other moves. If he doesn't, maybe we'll see some small scale moves, but no real big names moving. But I'll be interested to see what happens there. The all NBA teams. I'm very, very interested to see who's going to end up because we've got a lot of big names that likely who we already know won't be eligible, and some names who likely won't be eligible if they miss another handful of games, like what's going to happen with Jokic. I know Giannis is pretty much out. LeBron, if he misses one more, he won't be eligible. So we've got a lot of names. Devin Booker, who knows what's going to happen with him, who might be like borderline eligible or uneligible, depending upon how many games they miss. So I don't know what the all NBA teams are going to look like, but there's probably going to be a lot of names on there that we weren't expecting at the beginning of the year just because of how many players, star players, superstar players have been injured and missed a number of games. But I want to see how the top of the West shakes out. I think OKC is going to be number 1. 2 through 6, I don't know. I think they're all within like 2 games of each other in the loss column right now, 2.5 at the most. So what we all know, the West is is really competitive. So it's really going to come down to, I think, who can get hot. We want to look at strength of schedule as we end the year, but also who's going to win the games that they're supposed to win, because losing games that you're not supposed to will, come back to bite you, especially in the West when like the Lakers were a 3 seed last year, but that was like, they were like, what, 1 game better than like the 6 or 7 seed team. So, every game matters in the West. So, looking at the teams that'll be able to sort of lock in and start to separate themselves, that'll be interesting. As of right now, I have no idea what, 2 through 6 is going to look like. But that's also exciting as a fan because that means these teams are all going to be competing. We're not going to see anybody sort of pack it in, start resting players, because we may not know what the seasons are going to be till the last game of the season. So that'll be interesting. And then I want to see who's going to sort of establish themselves as the second best team in the East. I want to know if it's going to be Boston or is it going to be the Knicks, because the Knicks were my pick coming into the season to be in the finals from the Eastern Conference. I did not expect Detroit to be as good as they have been, as good as they are. I think that they'll stay in the number 1. But the 2 seed is interesting. Boston has been playing really well. I know they've lost some games here as of late. And the Knicks have struggled as well, but they've won some games here recently. So, there's talk about Cat being moved or wanting to be moved. The big Purr might be on his way out. I don't know. But the second and third team in the East, I'm very interested to see if it's going to be. I'm pretty sure it'll be New York, Boston, but I want to see like who's going to be in what position.
All intriguing storylines right there, especially you can talk about trade deadline, Eastern and Western Conference, especially the West. Just was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. It's like, the Western Conference, you lose 1 or 2 games, you might mess around and end up as a play-in team depending on where you're at. and
Yeah.
have to battle to get in there. So I think that's going to be great to see that second half of the season after All-Star break. It's going to be some players that at the beginning, yeah, we setting out the back to backs, but that second half, especially in the West,
Yeah.
you're gonna see some players that was not playing back to backs before All-Star break. Suddenly it's like, oh, I'm playing back to backs. We up in the minutes, 35, 40 minutes a game because we trying to get seeing because especially in the West, the seeing is going to be so important depending on what matchup you get.
Yeah.
It's only a couple of teams in there where it's like we could play whoever and we're good. Everybody else, you might want to be careful where you end up with
Yeah.
seating or you don't have home court advantage. We've seen it throughout the entire season. And in the East, Tatum, does he come back? What does that look like? He just said yesterday that he's every day contemplating, should I come back? I see they're doing so well without me. Do I stay out? Like, that's
Yeah.
something to watch too.
He also said that he would have a statue if he played for Memphis, which was interesting.
He did that
Neither
last
here nor
year.
there. I
Was
just
that last year or 2 years ago where he mentioned he threw out the Hornets and then they played
yeah,
the Hornets?
he was saying how he tries to always show up or something because it could be easy for him to just be like, yeah, I'm on a random back to back playing the Hornets. It's like, dang, bro. I mean, he wasn't lying, but still, there's certain things you don't say in public.
Yeah, just don't mention the names. You could have just said, "Hey, I know some franchises I would have had a statue, but you ain't have to throw Memphis. You ain't have to throw Memphis under the bus. You ain't have to throw Charlotte under the bus." We're gonna transition to our fourth quarter segment. I want to ask you this. This wasn't on the rundown, but we kind of already talked about the chickens and they're not being high maintenance and whatnot. So I want to ask you this, right? So if somebody decides, let's say Ryan Coogler is like, I'm going to do a biopic of David Rusher, what would the title be?
What would the title be? Shoot, I don't know. I guess it would have to be a mayor would have to be in the title somehow. I don't know, maybe from this is a really good question. I'm not a marketing mind, so my wife could probably just give you something off the top of her head, but maybe from something, I don't know, from something to mayor. I don't know. The David Rushing stuff. I know that sounds terrible. I don't know, man.
Hey, you
I have
good?
to get back to you. I don't know.
I threw that one. I sprung that one on you just because you
It's a
know the
good
rundown.
it's a good question. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would be interested to see what somebody else would come up with. I'll ask Jess, but yeah, I don't know
All
that.
right, when this drops, we'll post it in the threads and see what the threads community says. I think maybe let's try this one. Might be better if you had to choose a soundtrack to your life. What album, what artist maybe comes to mind that exemplifies your life of where it's even at now?
So I have a friend who I went to high school with. He was a couple years behind me, or maybe a year or two behind me. I mean, we weren't tight or anything like that, but you know, we hooped together. He's a rapper, artist, I would say, and he's put out a couple of projects. And when right around 2020, when my wife and I started our podcast, he had released an album, and one of the songs on there was called "Growing Pains." And it just it just sort of talks about life and just it's literally just life is just growing pains. It's a series of you know things that happen to you and how you respond to it, essentially. But I really love I'm not somebody who's so heavy into lyrics as I am like the music, the beats, and all that. But I just really like the song. And when we were developing our pod, I was like, I really want to have an intro music. It's like a theme song for the podcast, and I asked him if we could use his song. I didn't know if he was gonna say yes or not, but he was honored, and he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, how much is it?" And he was like, "Nah, you ain't got to pay nothing." So he just sent us the instrumental and the track itself. And so that music, if you listen to our podcast, his song plays at the beginning. I play the instrumental at the beginning, and then I play the part with lyrics at the end when we're sort of signing off. So that song, um, one, I love it. Two, it's the song to probably the project I'm most proud of that I've ever put hands to, because I built the podcast along with my wife. But also just the message, man. I mean, you've gone through things. I've gone through things. Anybody who listens to this has gone through things, and you just got to endure, because it's not about. There's always going to be challenges, right? Like you're going to be challenged with something, whether it's kids being home for 3 days straight from school, or financial problems, health problems. There's going to be growing pains as you go through your life, but it's all about how you get through it, how you get to the other side of it, and when you do, how you can look back and look at your journey for however long it was, and just be proud of where you ended up on the other side of it. So I would probably pick that song because I just love it. It's dope, and it's got a good message.
Hey, just for the people that's listening, that's watching, what's the name of the artist so they could go check them out?
Oh, J Belk, J.Belk. I think you're more likely to find his stuff on Apple Music than like YouTube, probably Spotify too. But I use YouTube Music, and his stuff doesn't come up. Um, Not all of his work comes up, so I usually have to go use it on Apple Music. But yeah, you can find him there.
As you know, personally, and those that have ever watched an episode of the BME podcast when I'm interviewing people, I love to eat. So every single person I ask that I have on a food related question. So if you had to choose, what is your favorite food cuisine, whether it's Italian, Mexican, if you like Japanese, what is your favorite food cuisine?
Um, I'm pretty much what have you done for me lately when it come kind of guy when it comes to food, because I there's not a lot I won't eat
Mm.
or try. But real lately, I've been on Korean fried chicken.
Mm.
It's just amazing. There's a spot called Chicken Bee, like 10 minutes from the house. I've been ordering from them. I've been keeping their lights on lately. I've been ordering like crazy. So I expect to get some sort of honorary honorary like something. I don't know, but I've been putting in some orders lately. So yeah, that's been really good.
Hey, you gotta reach out to them, tell them to sponsor the corner three. We tell them to sponsor.
I might have to
They could check your the orders, check your credit card history.
check the order history.
Oh yeah. One of our favorite customers. We can work something out.
Yeah,
Who's having the most impactful season right now in the NBA?
the most impactful. Hmm. Um. I don't know. I really don't want to say this. Um. I really don't want to. It's a name that popped up immediately, but I just don't want to say it because I know what happens when I do. But I really don't think you can look at what Jaylen Brown has done this year and just not be blown away. I think, and I know we've talked about this on the Corner Three podcast. This is my first time saying this, but I think a lot of the criticisms that he's had to face in recent years, did he deserve the Finals MVP? Can't go left. Did he deserve his contract? People seemingly just wanting there to be like beef between him and Tatum because they're both so elite. But this year he got the keys because Tatum's been out. A couple of guys who were there aren't there anymore, and he's just been balling, man. And I did not expect this up. I thought they'd be better than what a lot of people projected. I did not expect them to be where they are now. And obviously, it's been a collective effort. Joe Mazzulla has been phenomenal as a head coach. Brad Stevens has been great at getting guys in there who will fit what they're trying to do or want to do. But Jaylen Brown's been amazing, man. He's I think he should be in the MVP running. But it pains me to say that for a number of reasons. But I think if you're looking at it as an objective basketball fan, and just the fact that a lot of other guys have been out, he's managed to stay healthy, and he's been, the driving force between that team winning as many games as they've won.
Hey, you got to give credit where credit is due. He talked about this, I feel like it was yesterday or the day before. I think he was on a stream or an interview, and he mentioned it. He said, Tatum isn't here. We lost some key guys through free agency. At this point last year, 2 seed, and we're still a 2 seed. There hasn't been any drop off.
Yep.
You got to give credit where credit is due. And one of the things that he points out, which I think is very key and vital, is that he's a two-way player, which we know is not the easiest thing to do, to have the energy and the stamina to play the offensive side and then go compete on the defensive side as well. I know there's a player in LA that we both would love to be able to do that, but we'll take the offensive genius aspect and try to surround him with defenders.
I could get on the soapbox, and I won't do it. But I don't know. I feel like some players are what they are, and I know we as fans want them to be more. But they are what they are, so we need to appreciate for what they do. Now, and that doesn't mean you turn a blind eye, but I'm not somebody who's begging for Luka to be, some all NBA presence on defense, because I don't think he has the physical tools to do it, and he has to do so much on the offensive side. So, it is what it is. Like you said, I think we'd like to see it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna harp on it either.
Oh yeah, that's why. I mean, one thing Nico did do right, you build around the deficiencies of your star player. Jalen Brunson, not the best on defense, and part of that, to your point, is actually he can't control that. He's 5'11". He can't do nothing about that. You build around. That's where, again, it's a franchise. It's a team effort. That's where situation matters. If you know I am not that good on defense, you need to surround me with players that play defense. That's on you, management. I can't figure that out. And even if he was all defensive, the Lakers as a whole need to play better team defense at different points. They've been playing better as of late. Yeah. But that's the collective again. That's JJ Redick figuring out schemes. It's a lot that goes into it that some people don't think about. To end off the show, we all know Vince Carter is your favorite player growing up, one of your favorite players even now, commentating and everything of that nature. If you wanted to see, for example, because we've seen a couple of Q&As, some successful, some not successful. Won't mention any specific ones, but who would you want to see do a Q&A on Threads not named Vince Carter?
I would like to see Draymond Green. And the reason why I picked Draymond is because he's probably the first and maybe only in current active NBA player who actually uses the platform. And most of the time it's because he's dragging people who have made some comments either to him or about him, and he responds to it. But he also there are also times where he's either engaging in conversations or starting some of his own. I've seen him respond to people who have asked him questions. So I think it's one thing that a lot of NBA Threads community members were critical of the Threads team about in the beginning was they were bringing in influencers from Instagram who didn't use Threads and were sort of propping them up, using them for a lot of Q&As and things like that. And they're like, well, we've got a lot of people here who are part of the community who have been here from day one that you could, sort of prop up, invite to these events or do Q&As with, instead of people who don't really care about the app or haven't shown any interest in the app to this point. I feel like the same should apply to a lot of these Q&As. Like Draymond's there. I would assume he sees value in the platform and he actually uses it. So I think he would be a tremendous Q&A guest. as opposed to somebody who doesn't really use the app or doesn't know how to use it or doesn't really care to use it. So I would be most interested, and I think he's just a one. He's a brilliant basketball mind, and he's just got a charisma, and he's he's a draw for better or for worse. People tend to listen to what he has to say, whether it's to clap back at him or whether it's to agree with him. But you can't deny his influence. So I would say Draymond.
I think it's a great answer because one of the things I do love with Draymond that we typically don't get from players, because I get it, big grand scheme of things,
There you go.
of the aspect of you got to protect your brand and your money and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen this obviously from Draymond at the beginning of his career, but being that he's established now, I'm a multi-champion, the money's good, I got stuff lined up with TNT. Obviously, he doesn't say anything that would probably hurt that, but I do appreciate his honesty and his vulnerability.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I think such and such team sucks. I think this player isn't good, and give his honest opinion, which that I do appreciate. Like you said, for better or for worse, some may like it, some may not like it, but he's a polarizing figure. I feel he's kind of, in a sense, is the Charles Barkley of today. Charles Barkley back in the day when he was playing, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, X, Y, and Z, are you a role model? What? I ain't no role model. So it gives me shades and memory of what I saw growing up, watching back, because I wasn't alive when Charles Barkley was doing this stuff. But I went back, did some history, and heard the stories and everything of that nature. So it gives me some parallels with Chuck, which is why it's always funny when those two are in the same room together.
Yeah.
We see it. We see they're very, very similar in that regard. But hey, I appreciate you taking time out your schedule. As always, y'all know the vibe here at the BME podcast. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.